Tommy Robinson is suing Cambridgeshire police for harassment. Some years ago, Robinson and his family were having lunch at a restaurant when the place was invaded by a troop of police who told him to get out of town or face arrest. There was no legal reason for that. In the video, Robinson is put up on the internet. One of the police officers tells him that he's a potential troublemaker and that's why they want him to go. But when the only attack tools you have upon your person are a knife and a fork for the purpose of eating lunch, I think that legally the police have no grounds to do anything, least of all to arrest you. According to Robinson, the police have offered compensation on several occasions because they know they've overstepped the mark, but he's refused every offer on the grounds that there's been no apology or indeed apparently no admission that they did anything wrong. Now, this is not the first time that I know of where the Cambridgeshire police acted in what you might call unconventional ways. Excuse me. It is only water, but I don't think anyone will believe that. And when I got personally involved with an incident in which the Cambridgeshire police showed the sort of characteristics more associated with corrupt townlets in the deep south of the United States than with what we might expect of a British police force, or at least we might have expected, because this was a while ago at a time when people still thought the police were actually policing. But it does show that the sort of rot which we've noticed in the treatment of Tommy Robinson has been going on for a long time. I can't say whether Cambridgeshire is worse than other police forces. After all, there are others turning blind eyes to rape and slavery on their patches. But the particular incident about which I'm going to tell you is a striking example of a police force which appears to be completely out of control and drunk with its own power, and furthermore hand in glove with the legal authorities, judges in particular. It starts with a homeless shelter director called Ruth Wyner and the manager of that shelter, a man called John Brock. Wyner was an extremely active advocate for the homeless, and she reckoned that the homeless of Cambridgeshire needed more help than was available in the shelter she was running at the time for an organisation called Winter Comfort. Her particular place was called the Bus Project. The Bus Project was a building where the homeless could go during the day. It had, I think, washing and laundry facilities so that they could be presentable, so far as I know, and a place where people could sit, have a cup of coffee, maybe socialise, and there were writing materials there so they could write letters and apply for jobs. This was pre-internet. It was about let's say it was up to about 1998. It did go on a bit further. You'll understand why I say 1998 in a minute. So pens and papers at that time, proper envelopes and stamps, were essential tools for getting the homeless back into society. The problem with the Bus Project was that it was a day shelter. In the evening, they had to turn the homeless people out into the streets or the doorways or wherever they managed to find somewhere for the night. Wyner wanted to do more for them, and she found an abandoned warehouse or a part of an old airfield, I'm not sure what, but she wanted to make a place where the homeless people could sleep overnight. As I understand it, the council was fine with that. They had actually given their agreement, but the police had the strongest of objections and fought tooth and nail to stop it. And sort of rammed head to head with the council, so far as I now know. Now, there are reasonable arguments for their position. One of the arguments would be that if there was a night shelter, it would attract homeless people from all over the Shire, and this would give the police and the residents a lot more trouble. I mean, that's perfectly reasonable for an objection, but still the council said yes, despite the fact that some Cambridgeshire residents are very wealthy indeed and extremely well connected. So, as I said, the police were dead against it, and it seems they decided to shut it down any way they could. There was a law, I don't know if it's still in operation, but it was certainly in operation then, and it's called the Misuse of Drugs Act. And it was passed in order to penalise the owners of various entertainment venues who might have been encouraging the use of drugs on their premises in order to attract custom. The police went into the bus project disguised as a couple of homeless people and tried to buy or to sell drugs. They weren't too successful, but what they were successful at was observing the doorway of the bus. They had people posted with binoculars, and they said they saw one of the clients passing drugs to another of the clients, and on that evidence, under the Misuse of Drugs Act, they arrested Wyner and Brock. The court case was, as you might imagine, a travesty. First of all, Cambridgeshire police did not have them tried in Cambridgeshire. They had them tried in Norfolk, way out of Wyner and Brock's patch. So these were two strangers in a strange court. Nobody knew about the work they'd done. The major witness was a man who called himself Tommy Pocket. I don't think anyone believed this guy actually existed. I don't know who he was. He turned up as a witness saying he'd bought or maybe observed the sale of drugs, and then he disappeared into the ether like a ghost. Wyner and Brock were found guilty, as I said, under the terms of the Misuse of Drugs Act. That is, they were supposed to have known that people were trading drugs on their premises, and they were found guilty. A few days before the sentencing, a Cambridgeshire lawyer was at a party which was also attended by Judge Howarth, who was the judge officiating at this particular case. And Howarth was, according to this lawyer, practically dancing up and down with glee and chortling that he was going to throw the book at Wyner and Brock. This was before sentencing. This was before he'd actually brought them back to court. He was already glorifying in the prospect of sending these two down for years and years and years. And indeed, he sentenced Wyner to 5 years and Brock to 4 years, a sentence which drew gasps from the entire courtroom. And the two were released a few months later. They were sentenced on December the 17th, 1999. And they were released around, I think, October or November in 2000. They'd served 207 days. And the Court of Appeal chided Judge Howarth and publicly stated that the sentences were absolutely disproportionate. They were about 4 times longer than they should have been. You wonder why Judge Howarth did that. And there is, I don't know what I can say about Judge Howarth in that respect, but the fact is that he was carefully chosen in a way by Cambridgeshire police. The ruling, of course, caused tremendous knock-on hardship because many shelters actually closed or lost staff because people were too frightened to continue, because one of the main causes of homelessness is drug use, and there's bound to be some sort of clandestine drug use in all of these places, by the way, including in prisons. So Wyner, the sentence dished out to Wyner and Brock should be dished out to every single prison governor in the country, because they all know there's drug dealing going on in their places as well. However, I don't think that any of those staff needed actually to be afraid, because it's plainly obvious that the whole case and the conviction had to do with Cambridgeshire police intent on stopping the night shelter and getting at the two specific people who were trying to get this night shelter started. And just like they turned out in force for Tommy Robinson's visit to a restaurant, they were just after particular people. So, and this was, as I said, they arrested Wyner and Brock in, late 1998, I think. So it does look very much as if they've been acting in this heavy-handed and frankly dishonest way for many years. I wish Tommy Robinson luck with his case, because it does appear that Cambridgeshire police need some correction, and this may be one way of correcting them. Wyner and Brock weren't in a position to do that. Many people, celebrities and lawyers, as well as ordinary people like me, were on their side, and there were marches in which I participated on their behalf. But they were only two people, and this was pre-internet, and hardly anyone knew about what was going on there. Things are different now, and I'm hoping that Robinson's case may mark a turning point in the way we are policed. The police may not be any better as people, but the possibility of legal action against them, with enough lawyers from all over the world on the side of the victims, might cause them to think twice before they lose control of themselves again. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe, and if you wish to donate, click the subscribe star link, where you can make a one-off payment or set up a regular contribution, or I have a PayPal account at grannyopteryx@gmail.com. Till next time.